Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalatu wa salam ala Rasulihil Kareem. Um, on this very nice day, um, it is nice that we are collecting together to prepare for Ramadan. And in preparing for Ramadan, an important issue for all of us is looking after our health so that we can successfully complete Ramadan and, of course, enjoy the time afterwards. So I'm very pleased um, to host this session with you. My name is Dr. Miraj Hassan, and I um, am acting on behalf of Muslim Council of Wales and Dar-Ul-Isra in Cardiff. We have Dr. Qasim Ramadan, who is a GP working in Rista in Gwent, and he is going to explore issues around health and looking after ourselves in Ramadan. We will then have Sheikh Yaqub speaking. Sheikh Yaqub is very well known, and I don't need to introduce him. And he is, inshallah, going to speak on issues related to fiqh and health, so that we have an opinion with regard to, again, looking after ourselves in fasting and where we are allowed not to fast or to, what is allowed and what is not allowed in terms of health. So let us, after Dr. Ramadan and Sheikh Yaqub has spoken, there will be an opportunity to ask questions. You can put the questions on chat as you go along, or you can speak at once the speakers have spoken. So let's start with Dr. Qasim Ramadan.
Assalamu alaikum, everybody. Firstly, I'd like to thank Dr. Hassan and Dar-Ul-Isra and the Muslim Council of Wales for organising today's event, and thank you to the audience for attending today. I'll talk for a few minutes, and what I'll break it down into is first, what are the medical benefits of fasting? What are the potential risks of fasting? Who may be in the at-risk group? And we can talk a little bit about, diabetes and Ramadan, if there are any, people here who are diabetic or got family members who are diabetic, so they're just unsure in terms of what to do with that. And then if time permits, or we can do this later, looking at sort of healthy eating, so we can do both at suhoor and at iftar as well. So initially, I'm going to start off with what's the benefits of fasting. If fasting is done properly, and I say that, because we know that, in our community, fasting when it comes to eating time is not done properly, but we can actually achieve weight loss, which for many of us is a good thing. So, there have been sort of studies showing that, we can improve our cholesterol, we can improve our blood pressure control. In some people, if they can't, who are diabetic, and if they are eating healthy, they can actually improve their blood sugar levels. It's also shown to improve mental well-being. But also, if you look at some of the negative habits that we have, some people may be smoking or unhealthy eating, takeaways and things like that. So fasting can actually have a beneficial effect in controlling those negative habits. And even if we look at recently, studies have come out with in terms of this 5-2 diet, and a lot of these non-Muslim, studies have come out that, we should fast maybe on a Monday and a Thursday. And I've read, that's the sunnah of the Prophet, is Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. And so doing these intermittent fastings have shown to have a lot of benefit. However, if we're not careful with our medical health conditions that we might have, there are potential risks of fasting, especially in this country compared to some of the other countries that are closer to the equator, where we, in this country, we have much longer fasts because we are so far from the equator. So there are risks of dehydration, sleep disruption, and worsening of medical conditions. And these are important aspects that we need to sort of look into prior to Ramadan starting. So some of the conditions that can put you at risk is obviously diabetes, asthma, COPD, heart failure, having chronic kidney problems, infections, and obviously certain high-risk pregnancies as well can cause you issues if you're fasting. So these types of people are important that we do speak to our doctors and our religious scholars, and we have you need a three-pronged decision making here. It's an individual decision along with your medical professionals and also your religious scholars to come towards an individual decision on whether fasting is right for you in that certain situation. Are there family members here who are diabetics or any diabetics? And would you want me to talk about sort of diabetes and Ramadan just briefly, or should we leave that to the Q&A, Dr. Hassan?
Well, you can.
Okay, so diabetes, it can be a contentious issue. If we look at British Islamic Medical Association's guidelines, they're very good. They do break down diabetes into sort of green, amber, and red. And there are certain sort of levels of severity of diabetes that would put you at very high risk. What we do need to understand is that some of the risks of diabetes are understandably low sugar, hypoglycemia, but also you can get high sugars as well. If you actually think about what we eat at Sehri and what we eat at Iftar, and the time between Iftar and Sehri, people can tend to feast, and that can rise the sugar levels up really high. So people automatically think, oh, hold on, I'm fasting. Maybe it's the lack of sugar I have to worry about. But there have been studies to show that actually you can have very high sugars, which can lead you to become hospitalized. So it's both lack of sugar, hypoglycemia, or high sugars can also occur if you have uncontrolled diabetes. And obviously dehydration is quite a big issue, especially if you're diabetic and fasting. What I would say is if you are diabetic, please go to your GP and get a blood sugar monitor. I know that a lot of GPs, the NICE guidelines state to us that we should only give blood sugar monitoring devices to people who are on insulin or medicines that drop your sugar levels. However, my personal view, and also speaking to quite a few diabetic consultants, is that if you are intending on fasting, have a blood sugar machine. I'll allow Sheikh Saab to correct me, but from majority of scholars' opinion is testing your blood sugars does not break your fast. And if you're diabetic, it's really important that you do check your blood sugars. If your blood sugars drop below 4, especially within the first few hours of fasting, that is a serious risk of having a low sugar, hypoglycemia, and potentially going into a coma. We would strongly advise you to break your fast, especially if that happens in the first few hours. And that's why it's really important to continue to check your sugar levels throughout the day. Conversely, as I said, high sugar levels could be an issue as well. So if your sugar levels go above 17, then you should also stop your fast as well, because high sugar levels can be quite dangerous. Never stop your insulin. A lot of people think, I'm not eating, I'm going to stop my insulin. It's really important that you go to your doctor, because there might be some insulin that they may be able to change. So I want to cough and I haven't got COVID. Okay, so that was just a basic rundown of diabetes and fasting. In terms of healthy eating, let's break it down into Sehri and Iftari. So for Sehri, it's important to ensure that you've got good fluid intake, but also we want to have those slow released carbohydrates that would really help give you energy throughout the day. So some of the things that are really good to have at Sehri time are things like oats, which you can use in porridge, and maybe try experimenting with some dried fruit or normal fruit, or putting some nuts on top of the porridge, because that will give you a slow release, sustained release of energy. Also, high fiber breakfast cereals contain a lot of minerals and vitamins and nutrients, And obviously, if you're having them with milk, that will be a good fluid intake as well. Consider starchy foods such as rice or couscous. However, if it is more savory, do be aware of the salt content because that could make you thirsty during the day. Yogurts are also good, as well as breads such as wholemeal bread. Again, be aware because it's dry, could make you thirsty through the day. So, one of the things you can do is some, healthy lentil soup or something that you could dip the bread in, and these are better, healthy alternatives. I wouldn't be advising paratha, yogurts, samosas, pakoras, especially at sehri time, with the high salt intake that's in them, because that is more likely to make you feel quite thirsty and dehydrated through the day. When it comes to iftari time, and you're going to open your fast, obviously fluid intake is really important, and use every opportunity that you have to sort of drink regularly. So at the point where you're going to break your fast, maybe straight after Maghrib, and if you're going to have your main meal, when you're in Tarawih, make sure you have at least a 500 ml bottle of water with you, so you can continue to sip through Tarawih prayers, and that's really important. Again, in opening your fast, dates are shown to be very good amounts in potassium, copper, manganese, and they're a good source of fiber as well. And obviously, they produce a lot of, they've got natural sugars that will help give you the energy straight away. Fruits are also a natural source of fluid and natural sugars. And again, soups are another good option that you can try with lentils or like a meat broth, for example, and having bits of pasta or grains inside the soup, which will give you the carbohydrates and the energy that comes back. When it comes to fasting, remember, I'm not sure if you've seen it, the Eat Well plate. The Eat Well plate, 1/3 of your plate is vegetables and fruits. The other third is carbohydrates like potatoes and bread. Then the other third we split up, and the vast majority of the other third is protein like fish, meat. And then there's a small section for yogurts and a very small section for fat. That's our general Eat Well plate. Unfortunately, when it comes to iftari, when it comes to Ramadan, we like to have all our, jalebis, mitais, samosas, pakoras, and actually our plate, it's got a much higher fat content in there, much higher carbohydrate content in there that we would normally have. And so it's really important to try to keep a balanced diet, even though you're fasting. I hope that covers most of the points, and if there's anything else, or are we waiting for Sheikh Saab?
Okay, Jazakallah khair, Dr. Ramadan. May Allah bless you, inshallah, for this great information. Can you hear me properly?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulihi wa Mustafa. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bless Shawwal, Sha'ban month and Rajab month, and give us basically the ability to reach Ramadan in good health and in Iman, inshallah, and give us the ability to fast Ramadan and worship Allah Azza wa Jal in the best way, inshallah. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, in Surah Al-Baqarah, regarding Ramadan and fasting, يا أيها الذين آمنوا كتب عليكم الصيام كما كتب على الذين من قبلكم لعلكم تتقون أياما معدودات فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. This is the first two ayahs which talk about Ramadan, when Allah Azza wa Jal addressed the believers and prescribed fasting for them, as Allah Almighty prescribed the fasting for the nation before us as well. Might we gain the taqwa and the piety? And He said, Allah Almighty, ayyaman ma'adudat, it's few days, it's 30 days, 29 days, 4 weeks. It's not much during the year, and that's the compulsory fasting for Muslims during the year. And Allah Azza says, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ, and if any one of you, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, ill or traveling, فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرَ, he can make up these days later during the year. And then Allah Azza says in the first ayah, فَمَنْ تَطَوَّعَ خَيْرًا فَهُوَ خَيْرٌ لَهُ وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ. Sorry, before that, وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين. وعلى الذين يطيقونه, the basic meaning of it, the scholars have different opinion. The first opinion, which means وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين, the people who actually at the beginning of Islam, there were lots of poverty and lots of poor and needy people, and Allah says the person who's actually able to fast, and he might struggle with it, he can give fidya, so he can feed a poor person. And then this rule is changed, abrogated basically, in the following ayah, when Allah says فَمَنْ شَهِدَ مِنْكُمُ الشَّهْرَ فَلْيَصُمْ. Whoever now present in the fasting month, he must fast Ramadan month. So this is the first opinion. The second opinion says وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ, which means وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ لَا يُطِيقُونَهُ. So the simple meaning of it, the one who is not able to fast, either as an old man or woman, or a person who's got chronic diseases, which is permanent illness, then he won't be able to fast, obviously, during Ramadan and after Ramadan. So what they should do, they give the fidya and they feed the poor person per each, or for each day. So this is the second opinion. And the scholars, they discuss, as I mentioned earlier, what is the illness? The illness is two types of illnesses. The first one is temporary. Any person could get ill, maybe for a few days, even a few weeks, sometimes few even months, and even a few years. And then with the will of Allah, they cured, and then they become healthy, and they just basically deal with their life as normal with a good health. And the second type of illness is a chronic disease, as Dr. Ramadan mentioned, like diabetes, basically blood pressure, or heart, basically diseases, and so, and different even illnesses, which is permanent. It's not going to leave you the rest of your life. So the first type of illnesses, if doctors wish basically that cure for that kind of illnesses, then your rule in Islam, whenever you feel ill and you get under this categories of illness, then you can make up the day fasting after Ramadan, anytime during the year. Even if it's get even longer with you, no problem, even with the following year as well. So you are able to make up this fast. Now, the second type of illness, chronic diseases, then you won't be able to fast during Ramadan or even after Ramadan. Then you give fidya, basically fitrana, or feed a poor person per day during the day. And that's what Allah Azza wa mentioned in the end of the ayah, يُرِيدُ اللَّهُ بِكُمُ الْيُسْرِ وَلَا يُرِيدُ بِكُمُ الْعُسْرِ. That means Allah Azza wa wanted the ease for you, not the difficult. And that's what we need to understand. This is the fundamental rules in Islam. Islam doesn't come to burden and make the life difficult for people. Islam as a religion and as the rules of Islam, it comes to make the life easy for people. Even Prophet Muhammad set up these principles. Whenever he had a choice between two things, he always chose the easy way for himself and for his people and for Muslims. This is the way for Prophet Muhammad and he is the highest in his worship. Nobody would even reach the level of Prophet Muhammad in his worship. And that's what we need to understand. The other things as well, Prophet Muhammad, he used to send even his companions to teach other people Islam. When he sent a couple of companions, one of them Mu'adh, and he said, "Oh Mu'adh, yassira wa la tu'assira, bashira wa la tunaffira." When he sent them to people of Yemen to teach them about Islam and the Quran, he said, "Yassir, make it easy for people, don't make it difficult. And bashira wa la tunaffira, and give good, basically news, glad tidings for people, not make it difficult and just make it so frightening for them is going to be punishment and the hellfire. It's actually forward even to people to encourage them and to give them a glad tidings and good news that you will be granted paradise and reward and so on." And the Muslim scholars who discuss the matters of Islam, all of rules of fiqh, all of rules of Islam based on one major rules which called Jalbul Maslaha wa Daf'ul Mafsada. Jalbul Maslaha bring the benefit to humanity. Always, if you look at the rules of Islam, it always, whenever bring a sound benefit to Islam, Islam will allow you to do that. And then the Jalbul Maslaha and rejecting the harm and the evil from people. And anything, it could harm you, it could affect your health, it could even kill you. That's prohibited in Islam. That's the fundamental rules in Islam, bringing the benefit and taking the evil and the harmful away from people. And that's what we need to understand. Now, what happened with our Muslim community, especially with our respected elders and people who's got ill, especially who's actually been active, quite good in his life, when he has or she has a good health, they feel so emotionally wanted to fast, wanted to do more when they become ill, and they become really upset. And I would say to our people and to all Muslims, has that good news. Allah Azza wa Jal is the most merciful. He's the most kind to us. As Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned in the hadith, for these people, especially who used to go to the mosque every day, fast even Ramadan, and even 2 days a week or 3 days in the month, and doing lots of ibadah, lots of worship, going to Hajj and Umrah every year, and then he get ill and become upset. I give you a glad tidings and good news that Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said in the hadith, this is in Bukhari and Muslim, is very authentic hadith, say, whoever become ill or travel, and the illness or the traveling stop him from doing his routine ibadah, he will be rewarded as he used to do it in normal days. So if you are ill and you approach Ramadan and the doctor told you basically you cannot fast this year, don't get upset that much. I know emotionally we are so highly in our religion and in our practice, especially with Ramadan issue, because it's just few days, 1 month a year, and people wanted to worship Allah Azza wa Jal and to gain more reward from Allah Azza wa Jal. But this is the hadith, it shows you, if you have the intention to fast and the illness is stopping from fasting, don't worry, you will have complete reward from Allah, as Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam mentioned in the hadith. So we need to, it's really good to have that kind of emotion, but we need to be practical as well with our life. In the other way, people sometimes they go so far and they put so much pressure on themselves when they get ill to fast Ramadan, and they get, actually, as the scholars they said, they get sin. Even they committing a sin if fasting during the illness, it will affect you badly, or it will worsen your illness, or even if it's prolonging the time of illness, you are sinning when you do fasting. Can you imagine that? Because Allah says in the Quran, وَلَا تُلْقُوا بِأَيْدِيكُمْ إِلَى التَّهْلُكَةِ, do not push yourself to death. Yeah, and Allah says, وَمَا جَعَلَ عَلَيْكُمْ فِي الدِّينِ مِنْ حَرَجٍ. Allah never ever put a burden or even make it so difficult the religion for you. Allah Azza wa Jalla made it so easy for you. So why you make it so difficult for yourself? In the same time that Allah Azza wa Jalla promised that He will give you the reward as you were fasting in the good health time. So why are you making it so difficult for yourself? So we need to understand that kind of balance and that kind of the mercy of Allah Azza wa Jalla in our religion. These a few things is really important for our respected brothers and sisters, especially the elders who used to fast, and then this year he find himself a bit weak, or there is more illness comes and he's not able, and even the doctor advised him not to fast, and then they insist, no, we have to fast. I have to fast and I have to do that. If you are able, I have a story from one of the brother doctors. He was working in Saudi Arabia, and he say, I had an elder Pakistani brother who had diabetes, and he was advised not to fast this year. So he insists to fast Ramadan. Then he ended up in a hospital in the coma, as Dr. Ramadan mentioned, in the coma from diabetes. And then because he came late to the hospital a few hours, they couldn't even save his life. He passed away. People, they start saying, oh, so good. It's a good end. He was fasting and he died in Ramadan. But in fact, the doctor, he was so sad because he pushed himself so hard and he caused death to himself, basically, during Ramadan, just because he wanted to fast Ramadan. So we need to have that kind of mercy upon ourselves, and we need to understand that Islam, whenever it becomes tight, the Sharia rules and make it wide for you and easy. In the other as well, the words of وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, there is another different Quran recitation. They recite وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطَوِّقُونَهُ. This kind of different narration of the recitation of the Quran, the scholars, they take it to explain the meaning of the words of the Quran. And which وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطَوِّقُونَهُ, he means it's like a tawq, you know, the rope when it comes make you so tight. So if that kind of fasting make it so difficult for you and it's so tight for you, فَفِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ, then you can break your fast and just pay the fidya, or basically feed a poor person. So this is the general rules for the people who actually get ill during Ramadan. I ask Allah Azza wa Jal to forgive us if we made any mistakes.
Do you want to add anything, Carson? I think you are mute.
Oh yeah, I've muted. Thank you, Sheikh Saab. And what you just said at the end reminded me of something that I was going to bring to talk here. You know, we've got Dr. Hassan here. Dr. Hassan, how many patients do you think you've seen in your whole career? I've only been a doctor for 12 years, you know, but how many patients do you think that you have seen in your whole career on an average? More than 20,000, 30,000?
Yes, probably.
Yeah. Do you remember every single patient that you've seen?
No.
But do some come more clearly to you even now? Certain patients that you've seen?
Mm-hmm.
And the same experience happened to me in 2010. I was a junior doctor working in A&E, Sandwell. It was in the middle of Ramadan, around about 6 in the morning, 2 hours after I'd done Seri. You know, we're starting to finish the night shift, getting ready to, you know, only a few more hours to go home. And the telephone rang in A&E. And when that telephone rings, you know a red ambulance is coming. Everyone stops to see what the case is. There was a 40-year-old lady unconscious coming to resus. We went into resus, me and the senior doctor, and it was a 40-year-old Muslim lady. And what do our mothers and sisters and wives do? You know, they prepare seri, make sure everyone's fed, then they feed, then they eat right at the end. When it comes to they're cooking all day. As men, we find fasting hard. We're laying around, but it's the women in our households who are cooking, cleaning all day, and then they make sure we've all fed, and then they eat. And this lady was diabetic, and no one told her what to do with her insulin, what to do with her medication. So she carried on doing what she was doing, took the insulin, fed the kids, fed the family. By the time the second week of fasting came, she went into a major hypoglycemic coma and sadly passed away. So I'm not here to stop people from fasting. I want, if you are able to fast, please fast. The benefits of it, you know, are so great in our religion. But if we can help you make changes to your medication, then please go to your doctor, you know, and make sure that you're in the best physical health in terms of your chronic illnesses, so that you can continue to fast. Don't take risks or hide the fact that you've got medical problems because you're afraid that a doctor will say to you, do not fast. Yeah. And a lot of people I tell the story to say, mashallah, she passed away in Ramadan. You know, imagine that. She's a shaheed or this or that. She left behind 2 young children. You know, that's the impact. And why I remember that case? Because it was wholly preventable. If she had gone to a doctor and sat down with a doctor and we'd made changes to the medication, she would not have passed away. That's why I still remember that case.
And I think Sheikh has emphasized that we have a duty of care to look after us. Yes, Sheikh, you are mute. Sheikh is mute.
Sorry, I just pressed the wrong button. That's absolutely true. There is a very famous hadith that people always say during Ramadan or at the beginning of Ramadan, Sumu tasihru, fast, you will be healthier. By the way, this hadith is quite weak, to be honest. I understand fasting is really good health and help you to basically to become even healthier during Ramadan and during the year, which is many doctors, they would even say that. And even some doctors, they would say fasting as well, it will be good for some kind of illnesses. But we are talking about to have balance. If a doctor says to you, fasting, it will harm you and worsen your illness, then this is the advice what we should take. So what we're supposed to do, if we get any kind of illness, we should sit with our doctors and say, this is my situation after basically doing the research and some tests, blood whatsoever, and according to your body, how react with the medicine, as Dr. Ramadan as well mentioned, if there is any change of that kind of medication, because sometimes people, they take a medication and then after a period of time, doctors, they might even need to change it according to the test you've done whatsoever. So it's really important to have that meeting with your GP, with your doctor, and find out if you are able to fast. Then the sheikh will give fatwa accordingly and will tell you, yes, if your doctor say you are able to fast, that's absolutely fine. I can tell you and give you fatwa that you are able to fast during Ramadan with that kind of illnesses. If doctor says you have that kind of illnesses and your situation is stable during fasting Ramadan and you might be able to do that, I would say that's fine, no problem. You have the fatwa that you are able. But basically sometimes your illness is not stable and it goes up and down, and even doctors won't even basically identify when it would be good for you. It's better to be cautious and break your fast just in case, unless if you are able to see yourself and monitor yourself if there is any kind of basically when you feel you are really tired, you straight away break your fast. It's no problem whatsoever. So you monitor by yourself, but with the advice of your own doctor who understand exactly your situation and how your body react with the illnesses and medication you have. And then we can, as scholars and as imams, we can give you a fatwa. But if the doctor comes and said to you, you're not supposed to fast whatsoever, there is no fatwa for you to allow you. I would say to you, it's not allowed in Islam to fast in this case. And we need to have that kind of balance, inshallah, to basically to have the good, basically the good reward from Allah Azza wa Jal and good health, and inshallah, during Ramadan, and you will be as well rewarded for that.
So in certain situations, Dr. Ramzan, if people are taking medication in the day, sometimes it might be possible for them to be able to take medication in the morning at suhoor and at iftar, isn't it?
Hi there, yeah. Sorry, I seem to have an echo from my computer, so I'm getting Imad to mute me so it's not disrupting everybody else. Yes, again, not a blanket, I'm not giving a blanket medical fatwa, if you want to call it, saying that all medicines that you're taking through the day, you can now take it if after iftar or before sehri. But certainly, yes, they are medicines that, you know, you can just change the times around. We talked about diabetes, but if we look at hypertension and high blood pressure, a lot of our members in our community can be on quite a number of concoction of blood pressure tablets. And we know that when you're fasting, you're not taking fluid in, so you can become dehydrated and actually have low blood pressure. So it may not be a simple case that you've got to now take your 3 different antihypertensives at Sahari time, or split them. Because I have heard in mosque, I'll be sitting there and they'll go, and somebody will say, "Oh, I'm on blood pressure tablets. I'm not sure what to do." And another layman will say, "Well, I take all mine straight after iftari. You should do the same." And it's like, well, hold on, you don't even know what medicines they're on. You may find that when you're fasting, your blood pressures actually improve. So you may not actually be needing to take the same dose of medication that you're taking, or actually actually stop 1 or 2 tablets. But this is where, like I said, that having a blood sugar monitor, if you're on blood pressure problems, I would say go and purchase a blood pressure machine. They're £20, and you should check your blood pressures through the day and after iftari. So you kind of can tell the doctor, look, this is what's happening with my blood pressures. And it's easy for the doctor to say, you know what, maybe stop that tablet that you're taking in the mornings now. You don't need it while you're fasting. And you can actually maybe reduce your pill burden that you're taking. A lot of people take tablets for heartburn. But if we start becoming more healthy, you may not actually need to take your heartburn medicine. If you change your diet around. Unfortunately, with a lot of our patients, heartburn increases in Ramadan because of the nature of the food that we're eating at iftari and sahri time. And one of the worst things that you want to do is actually increase the amount of pills that you're taking. We want to try and reduce the amount of pills that we take. So yeah, if you speak to your doctors, we can start making medication changes with you in an individualized, tailored way. But it's really important that you speak to your doctors early. And in the Sunnah it says, to fast Mondays and Thursdays. Is that right, Sheikh Saab?
Yes.
Yeah. So use it as a practice run. See what your blood pressures are like. See what your sugar levels are like, so that you can take it back to your doctor and go, this is what happened when I fasted. Is it okay for me to do a 30-day fast? And that will give the doctor much more sort of advice. He'll be able to give you better advice with those evidences. And also remember, a lot of your doctors are non-Muslims. They may not know much about fasting and how it impacts your medical health. And that's where we as Muslim doctors need to sort of come together and start educating not only the population, but also the non-Muslim doctors as well. And a lot of work has been done by British Islamic Medical Association, Muslim Council of Wales, and people like yourselves in Dar-Ul-Isra who are doing all these programs. And we need to sort of educate even the health professionals, so that there are clear guidelines that come out for our Muslim population, so that they can fast safely.
I think, are there any questions, Imad?
No, I think if you ask the audience if they have any questions, they can unmute themselves.
Does anyone want to ask questions? I have another question, Dr. Ramzan. What about exercise? Some people like to go to gyms and go for long walks. What would be your advice about that kind of thing?
So again, in this country, the fasting period is quite long. It's coming, I believe, 10 days early, 11 days early each year. What I would say is, the time between iftari and sahri can be a good time to go for a walk. Some of the simple things that you can do is walk to the masjid rather than drive to the masjid, especially if it's Tarawih prayers. The Tarawih prayers in themselves can be a form of exercise as well. And again, if you want to, I wouldn't say sort of do vigorous exercise, especially if you've got medical problems during the fasting period. But by all means, walking that makes you just slightly out of breath is a much better form of exercise. I usually sort of tell my patients, if you're going to go for a 20-minute walk, and it usually takes you 20 minutes, time yourself, give yourself 19 minutes to do it. So you're just upping the speed of the walking. So you're making yourself just slightly out of breath. Just bringing a slight sweat on is a much better form of exercise than trying to sprint or jog for 5 minutes. But there's no harm in exercising during Ramadan.
Sheikh, are you going to say something?
I was thinking to just mention something about the, as Dr. Ramadan mentioned, for people who have the diabetes, if they have the diabetes monitors, obviously it doesn't break the fast because it's just one drop of blood they needed. That's absolutely simple. Even if they ended to, sometimes maybe they have appointment for blood tests and they go to their GPs and take the blood, and that's as well, it doesn't break the fast whatsoever. Wallahu ta'ala alam. So you carry on with your fasting if you had to take some blood for test. Another things as well, the whole injections as a medication. The scholars, they agreed, all of them, that because this is a new things, there is no Quranic or Hadith from Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mention about that kind of injections and what is the ruling of it. But the scholars, they would say the soul of fasting, who basically is based on abstain from eating and drinking and any intercourse, any sexual activities from the true dawn to the sunset. So this is the definition of fasting. It wasn't any kind of injection in the time of Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And the main things which break the fast, which any things goes through your throat down, is a normal passage basically for your stomach. And that's would break your fast. So if your medication is tablets and you have to take it, then this is actually will break your fast. Obviously, if the doctor asks you to take your medication 4 times a day, so it will be so difficult for you to take your medicine and fast during the day, because you have to take it during the daytime twice and then twice in the night. So this is for example. But if there is any kind of alternative which is doctors would advise you to take, and it become a kind of injection, this is absolutely fine and it doesn't break your fast. Mainly if the injection in the muscles, it doesn't break your fast as whatsoever. Some scholars, they said if the injection is in the vein straight away, it might break your fast. But they said if it's not for kind of feeds like glucose whatsoever, it's not kind of a food for your body, then it's absolutely fine and it does not break your fast. So the whole type of injection, even insulin as well, the whole type of injection, it doesn't break your fast as long if it's not that kind of food for your body. Wallahu ta'ala.
Sheikh, Jazakallah khairan for that. What about if someone has got stress issues, they are mentally under pressure, and can they miss a fast and then make it up afterwards?
Absolutely. This is what we need to understand. If his kind of illness, it's a permanent, and he cannot, basically the doctors cannot reduce it, because this kind of illnesses and mental health issues and illnesses, obviously doctors, they would review it within a few months, and they might even change the medication and even change how many times. If the person, according to his doctor advice, able to take it in the morning, Fajr time, and then the second time, Maghrib time, and his situation is stable, then it's absolutely fine. But if he's supposed to take it at least 3 times or 4 times a day, then he's not supposed to fast, because his mental health problems and illness, it will get worse. So you need to be very careful with this matter, inshallah.
I think the brother's question is that sometimes there are people who are who can be anxious, and they feel very stressed generally in coping with issues and challenges and day-to-day challenges, and what he might not be on medication. So he's saying that, can I still sometimes not fast and then make it up afterwards?
Of course, if he feel, or if she's feel that it will make so much stress for them, and if they have that kind of illnesses, then they can break their fast and make it up later when they feel better. Wallahu ta'ala alam. But this is needed advice from their doctor and GP.
And I would just add here, peer pressure. If you see someone in the Ramadan eating or drinking, not to necessarily jump to the conclusion that they're not good Muslims or whatnot. There may be a reason. Just because you can't see them limping or, you know, have got a cast on their broken arm, for example, you know, a lot of our patients suffer with, you know, non-physical, you know, medical problems. And it's a taboo in, I wouldn't say in our religion, but in cultures, definitely it's a taboo. You know, Dr. Hassan would know better than me regarding these taboo issues. And, you know, when it comes to mental health, things can deteriorate or change quite quickly. Small stresses, whether they're emotional stresses or physical stresses, can trigger people off. Fasting, you know, it is, we have to admit, it is a form of physical, you know, it has a physical impact on us. You know, I'm not saying, you know, on everyone it's a detrimental or torture or anything like that, but for some people, even a small change in their day-to-day lives can trigger their mental health off. So we need to be aware as a community that we do protect these people and they're not made to feel judged in any way, because that will just exacerbate the problem. And I would just like to just mention, if Sheikh Saab could also cover this as well, now that, you know, our elderly population, our community members have had the first jab, they may be expecting the second COVID jab during Ramadan, and also the younger generation may be getting their first vaccination, whether having the COVID vaccine would break someone's fast, or the fear of having side effects from the COVID vaccine.
Yes, basically, I had my my injection on 17th, so we will be during Ramadan and even in the morning. So this kind of injection, as we mentioned, it will be normally in the muscles, so it doesn't affect your fasting whatsoever. Now, if you feel quite ill after having the injection, because some people, they had that kind of maybe side effect whatsoever, I'm not sure what is the side effect, but some of them, they feel quite ill after it. So correct me, doctor, if there is anything like that or not. If you feel you're quite ill and you're quite weak, had basically temperature and so on, you can actually in that day break your fast until you feel better inshallah, and then you can make it up inshallah later. But the injection, inshallah, it won't affect your fasting. You carry your fasting, it's no problem inshallah. And the issue doctor mentioned, as a community being judgmental, unfortunately, not just only in Ramadan, in anything, you can see people and you just straight away you just judge. And I would say to people sometimes, as Prophet Muhammad mentioned in the hadith when he was discussing the matters of happened with Ali radiallahu anhu, and he is a senior companion, and he said, "Ashaqaqta an qalbih?" Did you open his heart and know what's exactly inside his heart? So I would say to people, do you know what's in the heart of people? Do you know the situation of other people? Sometimes we see people from one angle and we don't see from the other angles as well. And we straight away, we come and judge. And I always give this example to people just to have that kind of mercy on themselves and people as well, and not to be judgmental whatsoever, because the situation of people and your situation within seconds it could be changed. And that person who you think he is sinning and committing a major sin, he would be by the end of the night the highest level in Iman, and you will be the lowest. You don't know what would happen. A person who would be sinning his whole entire life, and then he repents, maybe before he died, he doesn't know he's going to die, but he repents, and his repentance was so pure, Allah Azza wa forgive his whole sins and replace it with all reward, and he died, he will be much higher than me and you. We don't know. And we think because sometimes we are practicing, we are in the mosque, we don't know even if we are going to end our life with a good deed or with an evil and sin. You don't know, so you have no right to judge people whatsoever, and just humble yourself and just have a mercy on yourself, on people around you, and not being judgmental whatsoever.
Jazakallah khairan for that, Sheikh. So I think if I can summarize what I've understood from you, Dr. Ramadan, that it is important to have suhoor. We must have shahri, and that you were saying that it's a good idea to have cereals with fruit and vegetables, and avoid fried parathas, things like that. So, and you were saying that between iftar and sahri, try to drink fluids. We need fluids because the days are very long. And then in iftar as well, you were saying try and avoid, don't take samosas and fried foods like that. Sheikh, we like fried foods, don't we?
I know, that's a problem.
I know.
Look, let's be frank here. You know, you're going to have these types of foods there, but it's going to be, you know, it's every day that you're eating these, you know, and it's not just, you know, normally, like, you know, you'll have a samosa, your mom will make samosa once a month, you know, and that's it. But then your meal is samosa, pakora, kebabs, you know, barbecue, and it's a feast, you know, and we're all guilty of this. You know, I'm not going to say that, you know, I'm a saint or anything like that, but, you know, we are making changes to the way we've done this. And one of the things, you know, with the COVID pandemic last year was that we couldn't have Ramadan with our families and friends. Every day we were having Ramadan. You know, we go to the masjid, we'd go here. You know, a lot of people look at us and think, why are you torturing yourselves for? This fasting is so hard, and people don't understand that we look forward to Ramadan because we go and meet our friends and we meet our families, and it's such a beautiful time to open our fast. All we're saying is, you know, what happened with the last Ramadan was people, because you stayed at home, it was a lot more easier to be more healthier. And unfortunately, a similar thing is happening this year as well. We can't just have, you know, gatherings with all our loved ones and our friends and families. So it's a perfect opportunity now to try to instill some level of healthy eating in Ramadan, especially if you've got chronic health diseases. You know, 11 months of the year you've been so good with your diabetes, you're not having sugar, everything's sugar free, and you're being really healthy. And then come Ramadan, it's like, yes, I'm going to have that samosa, I'm going to have that gora, I'm going to have this, I'm going to have that. You know, it's going to have an impact on your chronic health. And as youngsters who may not have chronic health conditions, it's also a good opportunity to start training your bodies into healthy eating for the future as well.
Yes, indeed.
MashaAllah, good advice, Sheikh, isn't it?
And as the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned about the suhoor and the suhoor, تَسَحَّرُوا فَإِنَّ فِي السُّحُورِ بَرَكَةً. Have your suhoor meal, there is a blessing in it. And it is really crucial for us, especially who is actually going for work as well. If they are working during Ramadan days, it's really important to give you that kind of energy, inshallah, during the day. And Allah Azza will put, inshallah, blessing on it, as Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned in the hadith, تَسَحَّرُوا فَإِنَّ فِي السُّحُورِ بَرَكَةً.
I think that was an important message, because I know people, particularly because suhoor these days is very early, that some people feel, you know, that I will miss it. I've had a good meal at iftar and I will miss it. So you have given a very important message, both of you, the importance of suhoor and the importance of iftar. And Jazakallah khairan for that. And Sheikh, I wanted to ask, if people have got asthma, can they take a spray in the mouth, you know, for breathing?
Yes, the modern scholars, they have different opinion regarding this matter, the asthma pump. But I'm quite comfortable with the opinion that they're saying it doesn't break the fast, because if you look at the life of people in general, especially in our maybe in the hot countries where there is lots of dust, lots of dirt in the air, and and even people who working as builders, working even in the factories, working even in the what they call it, in the bakeries as well. There is lots of things you can feel, even if you are fasting, it will come to your mouth and your nose. And even if sometimes when you spit something, you will find it so dark, and there is lots of dust in it whatsoever, and doesn't break your fast. The scholars, they didn't say it does actually break your fast. Now the pump, when you pump it, you have to sniff it so hard to go to your lung. So most of it will go to your lung, but there is a percentage will go through your, basically, to your stomach. And this is forgiven, because this is very simple matters. It's not for even food. It's not kind of food whatsoever. It's not gonna even give you energy whatsoever. It's actually for your lung to breathe properly and comfortably. And mainly you breathe in it. You're not actually eating it, and it's not going mainly to your stomach. That's the argument between the scholars, and mainly it has kind of medicine in it, but it is actually spray. It's not actually very hard items will go through your throat down to your stomach. It's very simple, basically spray in it, and mostly it will go to your lung. Correct me, doctor, if I'm if I made a mistake, or even if you explain how the pump work. But accordingly to the scholars, I would be very comfortable with the opinion of the scholars who would say it doesn't actually break your fast. If you are able to take it in the morning, suhoor time, and then the second time, basically Maghrib time, and avoid it during the day, will be much better. But if you needed it during the day, it's absolutely fine. You can use it, wallahu ta'ala a'lam, and it doesn't break your fast, inshallah.
So when it comes to asthma or COPD, you've got two different types of inhalers. You've got preventers and relievers. So preventers are the ones that you're supposed to take every day. Sometimes it's twice a day. So that's straightforward. You know, you can do that at Sari, you can do that at Iftari. Yeah, not a problem. The relievers are ones that you will need to take. That's the blue pumps, for example. They could come in dry powder or the aerosol spray. Again, what I would say is that if you've got well-controlled asthma, it's very rare for you to need to use the blue inhaler. A lot of people think that using the blue pump 2 or 3 times every day, my asthma is stable. That's not stable asthma. That's quite unstable asthma. That's quite severe asthma. So, you know, I would advise you probably need to go and see a GP, especially before Ramadan, to see why you're using your blue inhaler so much. In terms of whether it breaks the fast, again, I would leave that to the scholars because there are a variety of issues. But yes, what Sheikh Saab said in terms of how it goes in, you know, that's common, and that's fine.
Inshallah.
Well, Jazakallah khairan for that. I don't think there is any other question waiting there. So with that, we can close, and I want to thank both Dr. Ramadan and Sheikh Yaqub for their contributions. And we have got some listeners who are thanking you, Sheikh, and thanking Dr. Ramadan. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make Ramadan easy for us and a success. And may we learn a lot of lessons that we can use in the rest of the year and we prepare for Ramadan next year. And this video is uploaded on YouTube, Muslim Council of Wales YouTube account, inshallah, and people will be able to access that. Dr. Ramzan, you want to make a comment?
Just quickly, we are, as a team of doctors, Muslim Doctor Cymru, and Muslim Council Wales, we're going to be releasing webinars specifically on diabetes and Ramadan. We're going to have diabetes consultants and GPs who will be focusing mainly in diabetes and Ramadan, and it's going to be English, Urdu, Arabic, and Bangla as well. So if you could spread the word, because that's going to be, this was more of a healthy Ramadan general talk. That's going to look at more specific and allow people to come and ask experienced consultants, diabetologists, regards to questions with regards to their medicines that they're taking in terms of diabetes. It's the first ever in Wales, and it's really important that we do attend that if you are diabetic.
Jazakallah khairan for that, and I think it will be very useful because, as we all know, in the ethnic communities, our communities, diabetes is very high. Subhanallah. So with I think that those kind of programs will come through, and I hope that people will access them, because it will help them to look after themselves while at the same time doing their best in Ramadan. Now, Sheikh, if I can ask you to close the session.
جزاكم الله خير. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله والصلاة والسلام على رسوله ومصطفاه. اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد وآله في الأولين، وصل على سيدنا محمد وآله في الآخرين، وصل على سيدنا محمد وآله في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. اللهم بارك لنا في رجب وشعبان وبلغنا رمضان. اللهم بلغنا رمضان. اللهم أعنا على صيامه وقيامه. سبحان ربك رب العزة عما يصفون وسلام على المرسلين والحمد لله رب العالمين.
Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh. So just to remind people that this recording will be on YouTube, Muslim Council of Wales channel, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan, everyone, for being with us, and Jazakallah khairan, Sheikh Yaqub and Dr. Ramadan. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.